The warning. The sleek silver ship descended from the clouds, barely making a sound as it landed on the wide lawn of the United Nations headquarters in New York. News crews rushed to the scene, their cameras focused on the seamless oval craft that seemed to shimmer even in the dim morning light. Jack Morris straightened his tie and took a deep breath. As Earth's United Nations security representative, he had practiced for first contact scenarios, but never expected to live through one. Beside him, Lisa Green adjusted her glasses, her diplomatic training barely containing her excitement. "Remember," she whispered, "show respect but not fear." Jack nodded. "And watch for non-verbal cues. Their translator technology might miss nuances." A seam appeared in the ship's side, widening into a doorway. Light spilled out, and a tall figure emerged. The alien stood nearly 7 feet tall with blue-tinted skin that seemed to pulse with subtle patterns of light. 4 arms extended from a slender torso, and large, multifaceted eyes took in the human delegation. "Delegate Zorthax of the Galactic Council," the alien announced, its voice surprisingly melodic through the translator device at its throat. "I come with urgent news for your world." Jack stepped forward. "Security Representative Jack Morris. On behalf of Earth, welcome." The formal greetings continued as they moved inside to the secure meeting room. Once seated, Jack noticed how the alien's skin pulses quickened, showing signs of what he guessed was distress. "I must be direct," Zorthax said, placing his 4 hands flat on the table. "Your world is in grave danger. The Vrexian Empire has marked Earth for conquest, despite my objections in the Council." Lisa leaned forward. "Conquest? But why? We've barely left our solar system." "That is precisely why," the alien replied. "Your species has achieved faster than light travel just 70 years after your first primitive space missions. No known civilization has advanced at such a rate." Jack frowned. "So we're being punished for learning quickly?" "You are being targeted because you terrify them," Zorthax said simply. "The Vrexians have monitored your broadcasts for centuries. They have witnessed your world wars, your rapid technological growth, your competitive nature. Where most species take thousands of years to advance from primitive tools to space travel, you did it in mere centuries. But there must be hundreds of more advanced civilizations out there," Lisa said. "Why focus on us?" The alien's skin darkened slightly. "Because you are unique. Most species that advance quickly destroy themselves before reaching the stars. Those that survive usually do so through unity and peace. Your species has somehow managed to advance while maintaining your competitive, sometimes warlike nature. The Vrexians believe if left unchecked, humans will eventually challenge them." Jack exchanged glances with Lisa. This wasn't how either of them had imagined first contact would go. "How much time do we have?" Jack asked. "Very little. I traveled at maximum speed to warn you. But the Vrexian fleet was already mobilizing when I left. They could arrive within days." Lisa pulled out her tablet. "We need to alert the Global Defense Council immediately." "What kind of forces are we talking about?" Jack asked. Zorthax's skin pulsed with dark patterns. "The Vrexians are primarily a warrior culture. Their technology is centuries beyond yours. They have conquered 17 worlds in the last cycle. Alone." "And the Galactic Council just allows this?" Lisa asked, her voice sharp. "The Council prefers non-interference in military matters unless they threaten multiple systems. I argued against this invasion for cycles," Zorthax explained, frustration evident in his voice. "I told them that preemptive conquest violated our core principles. But the Vrexians have significant influence, and they convinced enough members that Earth represents a future threat." Jack's phone buzzed. He checked the message, his face growing pale. "We've detected a large fleet of objects just past Saturn's orbit, moving toward Earth at incredible speed. They're here sooner than I expected," Zorthax said, all 4 hands clenching. "They must have been waiting at the edge of your system." "How did they even find us?" Lisa asked. "Our colony on Alpha Centauri is tiny, and we've only sent out a handful of exploratory missions. Your radio and television broadcasts," the alien explained. "Your people have been announcing your presence to the galaxy for over a century without realizing it. Early shows like I Love Lucy reached Vrexian space decades ago, Jack almost laughed at the absurdity. So aliens really do watch our TV? Many species monitor developing worlds. The Vrexians have been particularly interested in yours. Lisa was already typing rapidly on her tablet. I'm connecting us to a global emergency session. All major governments are standing by. Large screens around the room flickered to life, showing grim-faced leaders from around the world. Ladies and gentlemen, Jack began, I'm afraid we have a first contact situation with immediate security implications. This is Delegate Zor Thax of the Galactic Council. The alien rose and addressed the screens. People of Earth, I come with warning and an offer of assistance. A hostile force approaches your world with conquest in mind. The Vrexian Empire believes your rapid development makes you a future threat to their dominance. A military officer appeared on one of the screens. Sir, the objects have accelerated. They'll reach Earth orbit in under 6 hours. What defenses do you have? Zorthax asked. Jack grimaced. Orbital platforms, a small fleet of space-capable fighters, and some experimental weapons systems. Nothing designed to fight off an alien invasion. Then we must focus on buying time, the alien said. If I can contact sympathetic council members, there might be diplomatic pressure we can apply. 6 hours isn't much time for diplomacy, Lisa noted. Perhaps not, but there is something you should know about the Vrexians. Zorthax's skin brightened. Slightly. For all their military might, they have little experience with serious resistance. The worlds they've conquered surrendered quickly to avoid destruction. You're suggesting we fight? Jack asked. I'm suggesting that the Vrexians expect you to surrender when faced with their superior technology. They do not understand what I've learned about humans from studying your history. The alien's eyes seemed to focus more intensely. When threatened, humans rarely give up. You adapt, improvise, and keep fighting long after logical species would concede. The Vrexians call this invasion a simple security action. I called it madness in the council chambers. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. We need to mobilize every military force on the planet, Jack finally said to the screens, and get our scientists working with Zorthax immediately, Lisa added. Any technological edge he can give us could make a difference. As the leaders began issuing rapid-fire orders, Zorthax moved closer to Jack and Lisa. There is something else you should know, the alien said quietly. I did not come merely as a warning messenger. I came because I believe humanity deserves a chance to prove the Vrexians wrong. I came because I believe you might actually win. Jack looked out the window at the alien ship, then up at the sky where an invasion force was approaching. Well, he said grimly, they're about to learn why it's a bad idea to back humans into a corner. First contact, the massive Vrexian warships hung in Earth's orbit like metal mountains, casting long shadows over the cities below. There were 12 of them, each nearly a mile long with jagged edges that reminded Jack Morris of predator teeth. Admiral Susan Taylor stood on the bridge of the EDS Defender, Earth's largest space vessel, which now seemed tiny compared to the alien armada. Her crew worked silently at their stations, fear evident in their quick movements and tense faces. Status report, Susan called, keeping her voice steady. Our fleet is in position, Admiral, her second-in-command replied. All 27 ships accounted for. Susan nodded grimly. 27 ships against 12 Vrexian warships didn't sound like good odds, especially considering the size difference. Still, they had to try. Open a channel to the lead ship, she ordered. On the main screen, a reptilian face appeared. The Vrexian commander had scaled skin in deep purple tones, with yellow eyes that seemed to burn with inner light. I am Supreme, Commander Krador of the Vrexian Empire, the alien said, its mouth moving oddly around the translated words. You will surrender your planet immediately or face destruction. Susan stood taller. This is Admiral Susan Taylor of Earth's Defense Fleet. We have committed no act of aggression against your people. We request peaceful dialogue. Krador made a sound that might have been laughter. Dialogue is not required. The Council has recognized our right to claim your world as a security measure. Your rapid development poses a future threat to galactic stability. That's ridiculous, Susan replied. We've barely left our solar system. Which is why this is the perfect time to bring you under proper control, Crawdor said. You have 1 Earth hour to begin your surrender process, or we will demonstrate our power. The screen went dark. Susan immediately contacted Earth's emergency command center where Jack Morris and Lisa Green were working with Zorthax. They've given us 1 hour, she reported. Jack's face looked grim on the screen. Delegate Zorthax believes they'll target a small city first as a demonstration. We're evacuating as many population centers as possible, but there's not enough time. What are your orders? Susan asked. Buy us time, Jack replied. But don't sacrifice your fleet needlessly. We're working on something down here. The something was happening in a hastily assembled lab beneath the United Nations building. Lisa Green watched as Zorthax worked with Paul Johnson, a NASA engineer who had been rushed to New York when the alien ships appeared. Paul had made an important discovery while analyzing the Vrexian communication signals. He noticed they operated on a specific quantum frequency that Earth scientists had only recently begun to understand. Their entire technology seems built around this frequency, Paul explained, pointing to his computer screen. It's like they've optimized everything, weapons, shields, communications, to work on this specific band. Zorthax nodded, his skin pulsing with excited light patterns. The Vrexians have used the same technological base for millennia. They perfect rather than innovate. Which means they might be vulnerable to disruption on that frequency, said Dr. Karen White, a military scientist who had joined them. She was already sketching designs on a tablet. If we could generate an interfering signal. We'd need enormous power, Paul said. What about the new fusion generators? Lisa suggested. The ones powering the Defense Shield project? Karen's eyes widened. That might work. We could modify them to create a quantum pulse at exactly the right frequency. You have less than 1 hour, Lisa reminded them. In orbit, the deadline was approaching quickly. Susan had positioned her ships in a defensive formation, trying to cover Earth's most populated areas. She knew it was mostly symbolic. Their weapons would likely barely dent the Vrexian shields, but she refused to give up without a fight. Admiral, they're powering up weapons, her tactical officer reported. All ships prepare for evasive maneuvers, Susan ordered. Target their weapon ports if their shields drop even for a moment. The lead Vrexian warship turned, its front section glowing with building energy. Susan realized they were aiming at Sydney, Australia. Intercept course, she ordered. Put us between that ship and Earth. Ma'am, that's suicide, her second-in-command protested. Just do it, Susan said firmly, and prepare to fire everything we have at their weapon port. The Defender accelerated, moving into position as the Vrexian weapon reached full power. Susan watched the energy readings climb to terrifying levels. Firing in 5 seconds, the tactical officer counted down. Just before the Vrexian ship fired, Susan gave the order. All weapons, fire! The Defender unleashed its full arsenal, missiles, energy beams, and its experimental Gauss cannon. Most of the weapons splashed harmlessly against the Vrexian shields, but the Gauss round, a solid projectile, accelerated to tremendous speed, punched through just as the alien ship fired. The result was catastrophic. The Vrexian weapon misfired, energy surging back into the ship. A massive explosion tore through its front section. Stunned silence filled the Defender's bridge. Did we just damage that thing? Someone asked in disbelief. Confirmed hit, the tactical officer reported. They've lost weapon functionality on their forward section. Susan couldn't believe it. What happened? The Gauss round must have hit something critical, her second-in-command suggested. Physical projectiles might bypass their energy shields. On the Vrexian command ship, Supreme Commander Crawdor stared in shock at the damage report. Impossible, he growled. Their primitive weapons cannot harm our ships. The projectile hit precisely at the phase juncture of our main weapon, his officer explained. Either incredibly lucky or they somehow knew where to hit, Crawdor finished. His yellow eyes narrowed. Launch fighters. Destroy their fleet before they get lucky again. Hundreds of smaller craft poured from the Vrexian ships, heading toward Earth's defenders. Here they come, Susan warned her fleet. Remember, physical projectiles seem effective. Save your missiles for confirmed shots. The space around Earth lit up with weapons fire. Earth's ships were outnumbered, but Susan's discovery gave them a fighting chance. 2 more Vrexian ships were damaged before Crawdor ordered a change in tactics. "Pull back," he commanded his forces. "We will regroup and approach from multiple vectors." As the Vrexian fighters retreated, Susan allowed herself a small smile. They had survived the first attack and even inflicted damage. On Earth, Paul and Karen worked frantically to finish the quantum disruptor, while Zorthax attempted to establish contact with his council allies using Earth's communication array. "The Vrexians will return with a new strategy," Jack warned Lisa as they watched the battle data. "This was just the first exchange." Lisa nodded. "But they expected us to surrender immediately. Every minute we fight gives our people hope, and gives our scientists time. And every minute we survive," Zorthax added, "shows the Council that humans are not to be underestimated." As Earth prepared for the next assault, word spread quickly about the damaged Vrexian ships. Humanity had drawn first blood in a war they were never supposed to win. The impossible had already happened. They had hurt the invaders. Now they just needed to survive long enough to find a way to drive them back into space. Humanity's response. 3 weeks had passed since the Vrexians arrived. They now controlled Earth's orbit, but things on the ground weren't going according to their plan. Earth's nations had united against the common threat, setting aside old conflicts, to focus on survival. Deep beneath Chicago, in a converted subway station, Dr. Karen White and Paul Johnson worked on their quantum disruptor device. The prototype sat on a metal table, a mess of wires and components surrounding a glowing blue core. "Power test complete," Paul said, checking the readings on his tablet. "The modified fusion cell is stable." Karen nodded, her tired eyes brightening, with hope. "The frequency modulation is matching Vrexian patterns perfectly. I think it's ready for a field test." They had been working around the clock, sleeping on cots in the corner of their makeshift lab. The fate of cities might depend on their success. The Vrexians had already destroyed parts of Sydney and Madrid from orbit, though their ground invasion forces were meeting unexpected resistance. "Let's get this to Colonel Bennett," Karen said, carefully disconnecting power cables. "His team is defending the northern perimeter." Across the city, Colonel Eric Bennett and his soldiers waited in the ruins of a shopping mall. Intelligence reported that Vrexian troops were moving toward Chicago's water purification plant. They couldn't allow the aliens to control the city's water supply. "Movement at 2 o'clock, his scout reported through the radio. 5 Vrexian, walkers, and about 30-foot soldiers. Eric adjusted his binoculars to see the approaching threat. The Vrexian walkers were 3-legged machines that towered over buildings, each armed with energy weapons that could melt concrete. Their foot soldiers were reptilian warriors in powered armor that made them twice as strong as humans. "Standard weapons won't stop those walkers," Eric told his team. "We need to hold position until the science team arrives." In the underground, Command Center Jack Morris and Delegate Zorthax studied reports from around the world. "The Vrexians are struggling more than expected," Jack noted, pointing to battle statistics on the large screen. "Their gravity-based weapons work poorly in our mountain regions, and their troops seem weakened by our atmosphere." Zorthax's skin pulsed with agreement patterns. "Their species evolved on a world with lower gravity and different atmospheric composition. Your environment is taxing their biology. This is why they usually bombard planets from orbit until surrender, rather than committing ground forces. They can't do that here because they want our resources and infrastructure intact," Jack realized. "And they didn't expect us to damage their ships. They've never encountered a species that adapts so quickly to new threats," Zorthax said. "Most civilizations would have surrendered after the first city was destroyed." Lisa Green entered the room, excitement visible on her face despite her exhaustion. "We've made contact," she announced. "The deep space array is back online and I've reached 3 council members who sympathize with our situation." This was the breakthrough they had been waiting for. While Earth fought the invaders, Lisa and Zorthax had been working to establish communication with the Galactic Council, hoping to generate political pressure against the invasion. "What did they say?" Jack asked. "Opinion is shifting," Lisa explained. Several powerful council species are questioning the wisdom of the Vrexian action, especially as evidence emerges that they misrepresented humanity's threat level. The Vrexians claimed your species was developing planet-killing weapons, Zorthax added. I've sent proof that this was a fabrication. On the streets of Chicago, Karen and Paul arrived at Colonel Bennett's position with their prototype device. The sounds of battle were already echoing through the empty streets as the Vrexian forces approached. This is still untested, Karen warned as they set up the quantum disruptor behind a fallen concrete wall. But theory suggests it should disrupt their technology for about 5 minutes per pulse. 5 minutes is all we need, Eric said, checking his weapon. My team will target their foot soldiers while your device handles the walkers. Paul connected the final wire and looked at Karen. Ready? She nodded and pressed the activation sequence. The device hummed, building power, then released a pulse of blue energy that spread outward like a ripple in water. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the approaching Vrexian walkers stumbled, their legs freezing mid-step. The energy weapons on their sides flickered and died. The foot soldiers' armor locked up, leaving them struggling to move. It worked, Paul shouted, unable to contain his excitement. All units, attack now, Eric ordered into his radio. His soldiers emerged from hiding places around the street, firing at the vulnerable aliens. Without their technological advantages, the Vrexians were unprepared for direct combat. Their species had relied on advanced weapons for so long that their natural fighting abilities had diminished. Earth's soldiers, however, had been fighting wars for thousands of years. The battle was over in minutes. 3 walkers were destroyed by planted explosives, and most of the foot soldiers surrendered when they realized their armor had become a prison rather than protection. Eric approached one of the captured Vrexian officers. Tell your commander that Chicago remains under human control, he said, and tell them we're just getting started. In orbit, Supreme Commander Krador received the battle reports with growing rage. 6 Earth cities that should have fallen remained under human control. His ground forces were reporting equipment failures across all fronts. These humans are more resourceful than we anticipated, his second-in-command observed. They are vermin, who refuse to accept their proper place, Krador snapped. Prepare a full orbital bombardment of their major population centers. We will force their surrender through devastation. Commander, that would violate Council protocols on planetary conquest, an officer reminded him. We are permitted to use only targeted strikes on military installations. I don't care about protocols, Krador shouted. These humans have damaged 3 of our warships and captured hundreds of our warriors. They must be taught the price of defiance. As the command was given, one of the Vrexian officers quietly left the bridge. Lieutenant Mevnar had been growing increasingly uncomfortable with the invasion. Unlike most of her species, she had studied human history and culture, finding much to admire in their art and philosophy. What Krador was planning went beyond warfare into genocide. She could not stand by and watch a species with such potential be exterminated because of fear. Back on Earth, Jack received word of the quantum disruptor's success in Chicago. Similar devices were already being manufactured in hidden facilities around the world. For the first time since the invasion began, he allowed himself to feel real hope. The Vrexians expected this to be easy, he told Lisa as they looked at a map showing recent human victories. They thought we would surrender at the first sign of their superior technology. Instead, we studied it, adapted to it, and found its weaknesses, Lisa said. That's what humans do. We learn and grow stronger from adversity. Zorthax listened to their conversation, his skin glowing with a new pattern that neither human had seen before. When they asked what it meant, the alien's translator produced a word that surprised them. Pride, Zorthax explained. I am experiencing pride in your species' achievements. The Council must recognize now what I saw from the beginning. Humans are not to be underestimated. The turning point 6 months into the war, Earth looked very different. Craters marked where cities once stood, but alongside the destruction were signs of incredible progress. Humanity had not only survived the initial Vrexian attacks, but had begun to push back. In a secret facility beneath the Rocky Mountains, Admiral Susan Taylor reviewed the latest modifications to Earth's defense fleet. Engineers had successfully reverse-engineered Vrexian technology from captured ships and equipment, incorporating it into a new generation of human vessels. The shield generators are fully integrated, the lead engineer explained, pointing to the sleek spacecraft in the massive underground hangar. And the weapon systems have been upgraded with the quantum technology Dr. White developed. Susan nodded with satisfaction. 20 new ships were ready to join the remaining vessels of her original fleet. It wasn't large compared to the Vrexian armada, but these ships were different. They combined the best of human ingenuity with alien technology. "Begin launch sequence," she ordered. "It's time to take back our orbit." On the diplomatic front, Lisa Green and Delegate Zorthax were making their case before a special council hearing. The Galactic Council had convened on a neutral space station to review evidence that the Vrexians had violated numerous protocols in their invasion of Earth. The Vrexian Empire claimed that humans were developing planet-killing weapons, Lisa stated, her voice steady despite the intense scrutiny of 24 alien delegates. This was a deliberate falsehood used to justify their invasion. Zorthax stepped forward, his skin displaying patterns of formal testimony. "I have provided documentation proving that human technology, while advancing rapidly, posed no threat to galactic peace. The Vrexians acted out of fear, not security concerns." The council chamber buzzed with the various sounds of different species communicating their reactions. Several powerful council members had already pledged support, sending observer ships to Earth's solar system. "The humans have not only resisted effectively, but have done so with remarkable restraint," Zorthax continued. "They have treated Vrexian prisoners according to their own laws of warfare, despite having no obligation under Council rules to do so." In Earth orbit, Supreme Commander Crador faced a situation he had never imagined possible. 3 of his warships had been destroyed, and 4 more were badly damaged. His ground forces were in retreat on multiple fronts as the humans deployed their quantum disruptors more widely. "The Council has demanded we cease hostilities," his communications officer reported. "They are sending a peacekeeping fleet." Crador slammed his scaled fist on the command console. "The Council has been deceived by human propaganda. We will not abandon this mission when victory is still possible." "Commander," his second-in-command said cautiously, "perhaps we should consider a strategic withdrawal. We could return with greater forces after—" "Silence!" Crador roared. "I will not be the first Vrexian commander to retreat from primitives. Deploy the planet killers." A shocked silence fell over the bridge. The planet killer weapons were forbidden by Council law, weapons capable of rendering entire regions uninhabitable for centuries. "But sir, using those weapons would end this resistance once and for all," Crador finished. "Prepare them immediately." As crew members reluctantly moved to obey, Lieutenant Mevnar slipped away from her station. She had been gathering intelligence on the commander's increasingly erratic decisions for weeks. This latest order crossed a line she could not ignore. Reaching a secure area, she accessed the ship's communication system and sent an encoded message to Earth. Then she made her way to an escape pod, knowing she might never be able to return to her homeworld after this. Betrayal. In the underground command center, Jack Morris received the unexpected communication. "We have an incoming message from a Vrexian ship?" The message translated into a warning. "Planet killer weapons being prepared, targeting your major population centers. Weapons violate Council law. Deployment in 6 hours. A friend." Could it be a trap? Jack wondered. "Unlikely," Zorthax replied via video link from the Council station. "Planet killers are indeed forbidden, but the Vrexians are known to possess them. If Commander Crador has grown desperate enough, we need to stop them before they can deploy these weapons," Jack decided. "Admiral Taylor's fleet isn't ready for a full assault. We need another option." That's when the facility's security team reported an escape pod had landed nearby. Inside was Lieutenant Mevnar, the Vrexian officer who had sent the warning. "I can help you," she told Jack after being brought to the command center. "I know the flagship's layout and security protocols. The planet killers can only be deployed from the main control room." Colonel Eric Bennett, his arm still in a sling from a previous battle, stepped forward. My team can get aboard their ship. We've done it before to plant tracking devices. This would be different, Mevnar warned. You would need to reach the central command deck and disable the weapon systems. The security will be much heavier. We can use the quantum disruptors to create a diversion, Paul Johnson suggested. If we can trigger enough of them near their fleet, it might create confusion while the team boards. Jack looked at Eric. This is a suicide mission. I can't order anyone to go. You don't have to, Eric replied. Every person on my team has lost someone to this invasion. We volunteer. Preparations moved quickly. Karen White modified a portable quantum disruptor that the team could carry aboard the Vrexian flagship. Admiral Taylor positioned her new fleet to launch a coordinated attack that would serve as a diversion. As the mission time approached, Jack met with Eric's team. 12 soldiers, each carrying both human and reverse-engineered Vrexian weapons. Mevnar would accompany them, guiding them through the ship's layout. 6 hours until they deploy the planet killers, Jack reminded them. You need to disable the deployment systems before then. We'll get it done, Eric promised. The Vrexians thought we would be an easy conquest. Time to show them just how wrong they were. The assault began with Admiral Taylor's fleet emerging from hiding places around the moon. The new shields on her ships absorbed the initial Vrexian fire, allowing them to close distance and attack with their enhanced weapons. While the space battle raged, a small stealth craft approached the Vrexian flagship from below, using the quantum disruptors to mask their approach from sensors. Eric's team, along with Mevnar, boarded through a maintenance airlock. Security will be focused on the battle, Mevnar told them as they moved through the ship's corridors. But the command deck is still heavily guarded. They encountered the first group of Vrexian soldiers at a junction. Eric signaled his team and they activated their personal quantum disruptors, disabling the aliens' weapons and armor before quickly subduing them. 3 levels to go, Mevnar said, leading them toward a central lift. On the bridge, Crador was focused on the space battle, unaware of the infiltration. Target their lead ship, he ordered. Show these humans the true power of Vrexian technology. As his crew worked to carry out his commands, an alarm sounded from a secondary console. Intruders on level 4, an officer reported. They appear to be humans with a Vrexian guide. Crador's eyes narrowed with rage. A traitor! Lock down all access to the command deck. Double the guards on the planet killer controls. I want those humans captured alive so they can watch as I destroy their world. The mission now became a race against time. Eric's team fought their way upward through the ship, using the quantum disruptors to gain a temporary advantage against superior numbers. But as they approached the command deck, resistance grew fiercer. We're running out of time, Eric told his team as they took cover behind a barricade. The planet killer deployment starts in 20 minutes. Mevnar studied a ship schematic on her device. There's another way, a maintenance shaft that leads directly above the command deck. It's narrow, but 1 or 2 of you might make it through. Eric nodded grimly. I'll go. The rest of you keep them busy here. With Mevnar's guidance, Eric crawled through the cramped shaft, pushing through pain as his injured arm protested. Below, he could hear the sounds of battle as his team created a diversion. Finally reaching the output vent, he looked down at the command deck. Crador stood before a console, inputting the final codes for the planet killer deployment. Guards stood at every entrance, but none were looking up. Eric set the quantum disruptor for maximum power, knowing it might burn out after 1 use at that level. Taking a deep breath, he pushed the vent open and dropped into the command deck. Resolution. The quantum disruptor hit the command deck with a flash of blue light. Every electronic system froze instantly. The Vrexian guards stumbled as their powered armor locked up. Supreme Commander Crador roared in anger as the planet killer. Deployment console went dark under his clawed fingers. Colonel Eric Bennett landed hard on the metal floor, his injured arm screaming in pain. He pushed through it, drawing his weapon and targeting Crador. Step away from the console, Eric ordered. Crador turned slowly, his yellow eyes burning with hatred. Unlike his soldiers, he wore no powered armor that could be disabled by the disruptor. You think one human can stop me? He snarled. I already have, Eric replied. Your weapons are offline, and the quantum pulse sent a signal to our fleet. They know exactly where to hit your ship now. As if on cue, the flagship shuddered violently as Admiral Susan Taylor's forces concentrated fire on the newly vulnerable vessel. Emergency alarms blared throughout the ship. Crawdor lunged at Eric with surprising speed. The Vrexian commander was stronger than any human, his natural armor tough enough to deflect standard bullets. Eric fired his weapon, but Crawdor barely slowed down. They crashed together, tumbling across the command deck. Eric fought with every technique he had learned in his military career, but he was outmatched physically. Crawdor's claws tore through his uniform, drawing blood. Your species is doomed, Crawdor hissed, pinning Eric to the floor. Even if you stop me, the Empire will send another fleet, and another, until Earth is ours. You're wrong, Eric gasped, struggling to breathe under the alien's weight. The Council knows the truth now. They've seen what humans can do. The ship rocked with another direct hit. A support beam crashed down from the ceiling, striking Crawdor and knocking him aside. Eric rolled away, grabbing a fallen Vrexian weapon. The doors to the command deck burst open as Eric's team fought their way through, led by Mevnar. The Vrexian lieutenant pointed at Crawdor. The commander has violated Council law by attempting to use forbidden weapons. By the Council's charter, he is relieved of command. Crawdor staggered to his feet, green blood seeping from a wound on his head. Traitor, you have doomed our Empire's security. I have saved it, Mevnar replied. This war was never necessary. Humans are not our enemies unless we make them so. More explosions shook the ship as Eric's team secured the command deck. The reactor's going critical, one of the human soldiers reported. This whole ship is coming apart. Evacuation pods are this way, Mevnar said, pointing to a side corridor. We must hurry. As they moved to escape, Crawdor made one final desperate attack, grabbing a blade from his uniform and charging at Eric. The colonel turned just in time, but couldn't completely avoid the attack. The blade sliced deeply into his side. Eric collapsed, but his team responded instantly, subduing Crawdor with concentrated fire. The Vrexian commander fell, finally defeated. Get him to an escape pod, Eric ordered, pointing at the unconscious Crawdor as his team helped him stand. The Council will want him to face justice. They barely made it to the evacuation section before the flagship's power core went critical. Escape pods launched in all directions as the massive warship broke apart in Earth's orbit, lighting up the night sky like a new star. 3 months later, Jack Morris and Lisa Green stood beside Delegate Zorthax in the Great Chamber of the Galactic Council. Behind them, Admiral Susan Taylor and Colonel Eric Bennett, now recovered from his injuries, represented Earth's military forces. The chamber was filled with delegates from hundreds of worlds, all gathered for an unprecedented occasion. The SIU motion before the Council is to grant humanity full membership status, the Council elder announced, its voice translated into all languages. This would be the first time a species so new to interstellar travel has been granted such standing. Delegate Zorthax moved to the speaking platform, his skin glowing with formal patterns. Esteemed colleagues, I stand before you to support this motion. When I first warned against the invasion of Earth, many dismissed my concerns as misguided, sympathy for a primitive species. Today, I ask you to recognize the truth that has been demonstrated through humanity's response to that invasion. The chamber fell silent as Zorthax continued. I called this invasion madness from the beginning, but I failed to understand the true nature of that madness. It was not madness to fear humanity's potential. It was madness to believe they could be conquered through force. These humans do not break under pressure. They transform it into strength. He gestured to the humans beside him. In 6 months, they adapted technology that took other species centuries to develop. They showed courage, in battle and mercy to prisoners. They even welcomed Mevnar, a former enemy, as an ally when she chose to stand for what was right. Images appeared on screens around the chamber. Earth cities rebuilding, human and alien scientists working together, captured Vrexian soldiers being treated with dignity in comfortable detention centers. The Vrexian Empire sought to prevent a potential future threat, Zorthax said. Instead, they accelerated humanity's development and introduced them to the galactic community decades before natural contact would have occurred. The question before us is not whether humans are ready for full council membership, but whether we are ready for them. After hours of debate, the council voted. The result appeared on the main display. Membership approved by a significant majority. Jack turned to Lisa, a smile breaking across his tired face. "We did it. Humanity did it," she corrected him. "Every person who fought, who invented, who refused to give up when the odds seemed impossible." As the formal ceremony concluded, the humans joined Zorthax on an observation deck overlooking the vast spread of stars. "What happens now?" Eric asked, still moving carefully due to his healing wounds. "Now Earth takes its place among the stars," Zorthax replied. "Your scientists are already working with council experts to advance your technology safely. Your diplomats will help shape galactic policy. Your unique perspective will benefit us all." Admiral Taylor looked out at the stars. "And our defense forces will help maintain peace," Zorthax said. "The Vrexians have withdrawn their remaining ships and agreed to reparations. Their new leadership, chastened by Crador's failure, seeks peaceful relations." Jack watched as a transport ship passed the station, heading toward the newly established Earth Embassy. 6 months ago, we didn't even know aliens existed. Now we're members of a galactic civilization. "Life adapts," Lisa said softly. "That's what we do best." As they looked out at the stars from the council station, Lisa turned to Jack and said softly, "They came to conquer us because they were afraid of what we might become. Now they'll help us become something greater than we could have imagined." Zorthax's skin rippled with a pattern that the humans had come to recognize as agreement. "The council feared your potential for destruction. Now they will benefit from your potential for creation. That is the true lesson of Earth's resistance. Not that humans are dangerous, but that they are extraordinary." In that moment, as representatives of humanity looked out at a galaxy now open to them, the madness of invading Earth had never been more apparent, or the future of humanity among the stars more bright.